The Eminence in Shadow Season 1 ended quite a while ago, but I'm still reminiscing about the last episode, specifically the fight, or more accurately to say, the tests conducted by Shadow. If you did not know, his experiment could be divided into 3 stages: Sense, Strength, Magic. These steps ensure maximum enjoyment to Shadow and us, the viewer. I will break down those moments for an easily understandable video, so make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and let's begin. But before the epic showdown, let's rewind to episode 16, the moment where Beatrix and Sid had a memorable encounter in the tunnel. When passing by each other for the first time, Beatrix recognizes the elf's scent and asks if he knows any elves who look like her, but Sid lies, resulting in Beatrix drawing her sword to his throat.
I see.
But Sid calls her bluff, reacting like a seemingly ordinary background character, which tricked Beatrix to put her sword down. After a brief exchange, Beatrix acknowledges the immense potential Sid possesses, and vice versa. Fast forward 3 episodes later, and we witness Beatrix's admiration for Mundane's man combat technique. She couldn't help but be drawn to his skills, even leaning towards the window, yearning for a chance to spar with him. When Shadow engages in political matters and becomes a wanted man, the highly anticipated moment arrives for Beatrix as she finally gets the opportunity to engage in a sword fight. Her fascination with different Sid's characters had set the stage for the thrilling confrontation. And speaking of mundane man, his opponent was Princess Iris, despite fighting her with feints only until she showed her best move. What is interesting is that Sid was thinking of different ways to set a stage. One way was to kill her and claim to be a shadow assassin from a shadowy organization and disappear. Well, it's possible he would have actually dealt a finishing blow if not for Rose, who almost upstaged him by killing Oriana's king. After a little warm-up, Shadow puts some distance between her, while Beatrix doesn't chase him down, instead chooses to steady her breathing. She lets out a word of admiration, as one would sigh. This is when Shadow begins to test her senses by taking a single step forward and disappears. While Beatrix couldn't detect his movement, she's able to defend on instinct alone, but just barely. She thinks as to why she can't detect his movements. Drawing multiple conclusions from a lifetime of battle experience, she thinks that Shadow's sword is natural, comparing Shadow to an individual rain droplet.
What's the matter? We're just getting started.
As Beatrix prepares to embrace her defeat, Princess Iris interrupts their fighting, including herself in this contest, with an artifact. Since making fun of herself was not humiliating enough, she tries to provoke Shadow, asking if using better equipment is not underhanded. For comparison, it's like bringing a gun to a fist fight, but Shadow just laughs it off and calls it a crutch. Iris then channels all her magical energy to a sword, creating a flamethrower attack to Shadow, but he dodged it without any problem. Shadow then tests Iris' senses if she can detect him in the air, and she can, but later on, seeing that Iris failed to sense his presence, Shadow calls her out and compares her attack to a fireworks show. Beatrix tries to attack Shadow from behind and they continue to exchange blows. Now I want you to keep in mind how fast Beatrix and Shadow move in this scene, because in the next scene we can see different humans and horses who are standing still. At first I thought that animators got lazy and didn't want to animate it, but when comparing it to the scene I just showed moments before, you can realize that we are moving so fast, normal people just can't process it fast enough to react in any way. When getting close to construction site, Shadow deliberately jumps towards it, picking up 2 crowbars.
I knew it from the beginning. She has real potential!
This is a callback to episode 1, where this was his go-to weapon in his previous world.
Crowbars are great!
With new weapons in hand, a new test begins. Strength and technique. As he was getting approached by 2 contenders with crowbars in hand, it became evident who possessed the greater physical power. Sid easily held off Iris' sword with just the tip of his crowbar, while he had to exert more effort when dealing with Beatrix's sword, emphasizing the strength gap between 2 girls. When Shadow jumps to the moving chain, they continue to exchange blows. Iris asks,
Who are you?
I am Shadow. This name and this form that stand before you are my truth.
Everything else is just a fanciful and fabricated fiction.
When Beatrix attacks Shadow in a blade lock, she introduces herself and asks if they met somewhere before, indicating that she does not recognize Sid in Shadow's disguise. Shadow dodges her question by saying that he only remembers the strong opponents. While jumping onto the river, he recreates Witch's secret art as he once saw used while fighting Aurora, but instead of using blood, he uses water. Beatrix recognizes it as a vampire's technique, while Iris is mad at how many fighting styles Shadow possesses. Iris, seeing that there are no people or buildings in her crosshairs, uses her flamethrower attack on Shadow, but he just dodges it. While Shadow is distracted at how water is a bad conductor for magic, Iris attacks Shadow and he uses his foot to throw her to the river. While Beatrix and Shadow continue their fighting, Beatrix shows her special drawing technique focusing on power. Shadow, seeing this, tries to block it with 2 metal crowbars, but they get shattered, making him go back to the original sword. We can also see how destructive their clashes are when no pedestrians are close enough to get hurt. I mean, when they were fighting on their coaches, not a single wind blew in their face, while the scene with a blue-haired girl where shockwaves destroyed the stone roads. As they continue to move to the clock tower, Shadow again tries to test her senses, but this time Beatrix reacts to it in time. She's like a student who learned something new from her master.
Not this time.
As Shadow congratulates and compares her sword skill to himself and Shadow Garden. I think that could only include Beatrix's niece, Alpha, when Shadow compares Beatrix's use of magic, which leaves so much to be desired. Shadow would have probably begun teaching her the 3 lessons he gave to that pretty strong bandit when he was 13 years old.
Lesson 1. Concentrate a little magical energy in your feet for a burst of speed.
But he got attacked by Iris, who for the love of God could not take a loss for an answer, as Shadow just tanked Iris' flamethrower attack head on because Beatrix was behind him. Shadow then compares Iris and her sister Alexia to wild animals, as one could not take rejection without almost killing Sid, and Iris, who could not stop fighting with raw power. Shadow then clutches Iris' attack and disperses it. This makes Beatrix surprised and easy to push around. Shadow then emphasizes that with borrowed power he cannot be defeated. Shadow then conducts the final test, Ultimate Moves. Oh, and Iris already failed it with flying colors. But that did not stop her from trying again, putting her life on the line to immobilize Shadow so Beatrix could take him down. When lightning strikes, Iris rushed towards him, but Shadow took a half step to dodge it. Iris went through her weapon and tried to grab him, but she got a knee strike to the chin. She did not know this, but Shadow is the most skilled in unarmed combat. Beatrix finishes channeling magic in her drawing technique. Last time, without magic, it managed to destroy 2 crowbars. Shadow learned from this and dodged the attack while performing Aikido movements to throw her to the ground and stepping on them so hard the stone floor shattered. As he was trying to leave, Iris stops him, saying that he's already cornered in the Midgard kingdom and has no place to run. But Shadow just starts laughing and drops this epic line.
Run away? Who's running? Running where?
Releasing so much magical energy, it covers the entire capital. Beatrix was speechless and Iris was astonished. We then change scenes and go to Iris' sister, Alexia, who accepts her death, but her resolve does not waver. As for her sister, well, her crutch just fell out of her hand. As Shadow boasts about his attack, he releases his best move. Looking at how the story was progressing, he should have said atomic, but after some lip reading and community theories, he might have actually said Yamero, which means stop in Japanese language. I even tried comparing lip scenes from another episode where he says
atomic,
and it is in fact different. I will leave the speculations in the comments if you have your own theories. When Iris and Beatrix witnessed Shadow's magic, it was so bright Iris had to cover her eyes. What they saw next was a sunny day. Iris finally comes to realize that she lost and starts crying, while Beatrix just looks down on her. A newspaper states that Shadow, the demon who appeared in the royal capital, was repelled by Princess Iris and Beatrix, the goddess of war. After some time passed, Beatrix is leaving the country. She advises Iris to let it go, as she compares Shadow to many entities mortals could not rival. But Iris ignores her advice. This reminds me of another piece of advice which came from Shadow, but she ignored it too. There was a line from a light novel, Before Nuking the Sky, where Shadow said, "Make sure you remember who your true enemy is." The final conclusion from Beatrix is when she sits in the train and takes out the origami. This implies something behind the scenes happened with Sid. It might as well be the content from an RPG game, although only the 7 Shadows Chronicles are canon to the main storyline. You can check out this video if you're interested in what happened to the 7 Shadows.